Anime presents That Time I Tuned Into a Podcast Just to Listen to Somebody Shill for a Publisher. I'm your host, Zeke Changers, along with the editor-in-chief of Honey's Anime, Alfonso Ortiz. How you doing, Fonzy?
I am doing great. Thank you very much for having me. I hope you are doing good as well, or great.
I'm doing great. Got lots of time to read recently, so it's
Very
uh it's
nice.
it's been a good day for a manga reader and a light novel lover. Let's see. Let's give everybody a recap. What we do here. What we do is
Yes.
we start off with a description of a manga or light novel that one of us just read and give your honest opinion. Then it's Fonzie's turn. He gives us a read and his opinion, and then we'll share a title I like to call Honey's Chan's pick, which is one that I think everybody should read because it has either a deeper meaning or is just one of those diamonds in the rough that may not be out there, may not be an anime of, but you really should be reading it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you ready, Fonzie?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. All right. The one I found was Banished from the Hero's Party. I decided to live
Hmm.
a quiet life in the countryside. Volume 1.
Ooh,
It's from Yen On, which is an imprint of Yen Press.
okay.
So, uh, a company that's been putting out a lot of good titles
Mm-hmm.
lately.
A lot, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a quick rundown of what happens in this story. Um, Red, he was once a member of the Heroes Party in his world. Uh, a powerful group. They were going to save the world from this demon lord. And that is until one of the guys in the party suggested, you know what? You're just not quite cutting it. You really should just, step back. And even though he's a skilled swordsman, he was co-captain of knights. He steps away, moves to the boonies, and becomes an apothecary. He
Hmm.
collects all sorts of medicinal herbs and he knows how to make basic potions and things like that. And he sets up this apothecary shop. And then a high ranking adventurer walks through his door, one that he had met before, and is like, you know what? I think I think I should quit adventuring and I
Mm-hmm.
should go into business with you. I should work for you. And he's like, all right. And this Rit is her name, and she is the princess of a nearby kingdom who's basically spent her entire life adventuring instead of being a princess because she doesn't really care about that stuff. And it's one of those situations where she's like, you know what? Since you really can't afford to pay me that much, I should just I should stay here at the shop. And
All
if we're
right.
gonna do that, yeah, if we're gonna do that, maybe we should pick up some extra bowls and dishes because you only have enough set for your own, and another mattress
Okay.
because I'll need a place to sleep. And before this guy realizes it, uh, Rit has moved in with him.
What?
Yeah.
Just unexpectedly, without him knowing.
Yes.
He just
Yes.
shows up
Before
there.
before he realizes what's going on, the cute girl adventurer moves in with him. Um, there's a lot of cute flirting going on.
Mm-hmm.
They both obviously, as we get some flashbacks, were interested in each other, but both had priorities that uh, kept them apart. And his priority when he was a member of the Heroes Party is his sister. His
Okay.
little sister was the hero.
Oh.
And so he spent all of his older life training to get stronger so he could help protect his sister as she came into her own.
Mm-hmm.
But he could only excel so far. Once his sister caught up to him, she then blew by him like an Indy
Mm-hmm.
car passing an ox cart. It was, yeah, she became that much stronger, and
Wow.
all the members of the party were that much stronger. And despite his little sister, um, you know,
Uh-huh.
needing him for emotional support, other another member of the party basically said, "You really need to get out of here because you're only holding her back, and you're a detriment to everything."
Okay, yeah, I was about
Yeah,
to ask to see if that
yeah,
was
he's
gonna happen because I was like, oh man, I wonder. I like at one point I was wondering if this is like hurting his ego or something, but
he kind of accepts it because he's a realist.
that's what it seems like. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in this world. There are these blessings that you get as a child, and they kind of can determine a lot about what you do in the future, what you become. His blessing was that of a guide, which automatically made him like a level 31. I'm not sure how high their leveling goes, but
Mm-hmm.
he never got any stronger, really. He started out like strong and skilled and everything, but he couldn't progress any higher because the way the stats are in this world, which I still think is weird in general that the worlds have stats, but let's move past that
Yeah.
suspension of disbelief here. Now, we are getting the feeling that his sister is kind of upset and
Mm-hmm.
pissed and everything that her brother suddenly decided to leave her. Why? Why, Oni-chan? Why would you leave me? Not being told that,
The
he
other
was basically
members asked him to leave.
bullied him out of the party,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh, they
So,
bullied him. Oh, even worse. Come on, man.
yeah, and of course, and the guy's name is Ares, so of course he's going to be a dick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it fits the profile.
yes, it does. Gotta love where these Japanese light novelists pull some of their names from, because let me tell you, brave naming your kid Ares. All right, but
Well.
Rit and Red move in together, move into his shop and run this apothecary.
Mm-hmm.
And there are events that are happening in this town. The town is very far away from the worries of most of the world, because you don't have the Demon Lord's army anywhere near them, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. But it's kind of slice of life with some undercurrents of a larger plot that you can tell exists, but we aren't there yet after the first one, and I'm
Uh-huh.
already halfway through the second. And you're seeing that there's something going on, but we're not sure what it is. So it's really interesting to see how this world is developed, and if you want something that is makes you smile with a like a, I don't know, has a marshmallowy feel to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a peep of a story where you know these two full grown adults, sitting going swimming in the afternoon and then just sitting next to each other holding hands
All right.
is like the highlight of their love life at the moment, because they're both too rather embarrassed to, they've already they've talked about they haven't used the word marriage, but everything they have talked about their future is that, which kind of reminds me of my own relationship with my wife, in that I never really proposed when we first talked about what date we should get married. We
Uh-huh.
just said, hey, what would be a good day to get married? And then, a couple months later, I proposed. But it's the same idea. They talk about everything that involves marriage without ever using the M word. So it's really cute. It's a little sugary sweet. I'm not sure whether we're going to have a, volume three, Modica
Mm-hmm.
sudden turn, but right now it's just a pleasurable, I get
Wow, that
in,
sounds really interesting
yeah, I
actually.
nice relaxing,
So like the
and of
beginning's
course
pretty action packed in the sense, build
a
up,
little bit,
and
yeah, a
then
little bit,
and then the guy's been brought down a peg or two, and
yeah,
he kind of, I guess, the sense of like, oh, okay, well, I might as well just retire
yeah,
and go
and
to this small town. That's awesome.
he's like a listed as a D rank adventurer,
Yeah.
and because of his skills, he can go up into the mountains, which have monsters in them,
Mm-hmm.
and he's relatively safe against some of the most of the middle grade monsters that roll
Yeah,
around
yeah.
there.
Because it's
And
supposed to
so
be a peaceful area, so
he
there's
can
not too big.
collect the herbs and things that other people can't get, because
Hmm.
relatively speaking, he's at a his skill level probably realistically would put him like as a B rank adventurer.
Mm-hmm.
So he can go into these more dangerous places, collect the herbs and grasses and things like that that they need,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that other common apothecaries and things like that would never be able to go, or they'd have to go somewhere and buy them at an exorbitant markup. So,
Yeah.
he's got a business plan. It's working.
Nice. That's actually, yeah, I can only speculate now that he's going to be kind of like, the main hero of the town, obviously, with his skills, and then him being able to go and grab these herbs and materials that no one else can. That feels like it's going to build up his status within himself and his ego and everything. Maybe he'll definitely be at a spot where he lives happily ever after, if that's the case. But I
I'm
have
really,
this. Oh,
really hoping. I'm really hoping for that.
yeah, that's what I can understand. Like, if that's really what's gonna happen. But I mean, if there's some comedy in there, I can also see like maybe that there is gonna be a slight chance that some actual like B-rated or a monster or a class
Yeah,
monster shows up and they're all like, "Oh, we have this guy. Go step up, pat him on the back, and push him forward and be able to handle it." And, and he's probably gonna be like, I
yeah.
don't
Well,
know."
apparently there's a drug epidemic in the city, where
Eh?
people are taking this drug at the moment, and he is able to. He's trying to figure out how to cure it. Because, like I said, people feel, in some cases you could feel trapped by
Uh-huh.
this blessing. So he's been able to. They're dealing with that, and so that's one of the underlying stories in it. That,
Oh.
and we will of course have the eventual reuniting
Uh-huh.
of Red and his little
Little
sister,
sister, yeah.
and little sister will be like, "Who's this woman? What's she doing next to
Yeah,
my big brother?"
she's gonna get all possessive
Yes,
and jealous, and then the next thing you know, there's gonna be a quarrel going
yes,
on.
yes. So I'm waiting for the moments to come in that relationship. But I wholly recommend this one to people. It's a great story that, if you are looking for something to make you feel better
Hmm.
this year, or you're feeling down, this is a sugary sweet story. And I just found out that coming July, there will be an anime based on this light novel being released. So, hey,
Nice. That's
if
gonna be nice.
you're too lazy to read, just wait a few months
And then you
and
can watch the
watch
anime
watch the
and
anime.
pray to God that it's faithful enough that it'll do justice for
Well,
us all. We'll see, because
we
we do know how anime ends up changing it up a little bit based on the manga, but lately it's been pretty good.
fortunately, maybe they're used to they've heard the calls for when they drastically change things,
Mm-hmm.
because now that we have Twitter and other social media, those directors hear it if they go too far off the reservation. So
That's what I'm hoping. And I mean, at the same time, uh, I just feel like, the fandom, whether it be in Japan or overseas in the West, yeah, there's a universal collectiveness that the fans are feeling the same way. So how we're voicing ourselves here in the West, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Japanese fans doing the same thing, and then, they definitely will hear it and know
well, and
about it.
some of it can come down to, I mean, I understand sometimes they change things
Mm-hmm.
and or they cut things, but that's because you've only got 12 episodes to put in an entire story, and so you got to drop some stuff along the way, and
I
I
guess
get
that's,
that.
yeah, I guess that's true. A horrible example of that, though, was actually this past winter, 2021 season with The Promised Neverland, believe it or not.
One of
Oh,
my friends was telling me that they dropped a whole lot of stuff
a
from Promise
whole lot
Neverland.
of stuff. Yeah, and then what you come to like, well, spoilers if anyone hasn't seen it yet, but of course, you come to the end and they skip through so much. And it was horrendous. Like, you didn't even have to read the manga to know exactly what would be happening and how to compare it to the anime. Like, you just know that they messed up. Like, they just took a huge chunk out of the storyline. and rushed it completely. It was
Was
horrible.
it what the director wasn't Hideki Anno, so I don't know. You
Oh.
know, Ty, he's ever forever going to be in the doghouse for me because he just like the last the last two episodes of Evangelion, and then all his
Mhm.
subsequent reworks and rebuilds just kind of
Yeah.
show this is how we make anime in stream of consciousness.
Mhm. It was right up there though. It probably didn't have the same influence because, Evangelion when it was coming out was like the best. It was out
Yeah,
there. They had good marketing for it. Everybody was into it, and then yeah, they ruined that. And believe it or not, there was a small riot in Japan when the last episodes aired, and people were like, "What the heck is this?" And they took to the streets.
at least they didn't have to show a boat.
No. Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh man. Well, yeah, that is really interesting, especially the whole undertones of the marriage part of it. It
Yeah.
sounds very funny, intriguing,
Yes.
and I suspenseful in a sense that I actually want to know what's gonna happen.
Because, like I said, I think the authors developed a really rich and interesting world with lots of rules and lots of
Uh-huh.
things going on. So I don't know how many volumes there are, but I just know right now there are only two volumes that have been
Hmm.
translated and are available on Yen. And so I assume there's more material coming because there's no way they're wrapping it up in the second volume.
Nice. Oh, well, I can't wait. I'll check out the first two actually.
Okay. So
All
what
right.
do you got for us?
All right. So, I have something that's pretty anticipated, or rather very anticipated, especially the way the season ended this past winter 2021. And that is Jujutsu Kaisen Zero from Viz Media. They sent me a physical copy. They were like, "Here, check it out. Tell us what you like if you want to do a little review about it." And I was like, "You know what? I'll do a manga podcast review about this. Uh, kind of keep it short because I don't want to, indulge too much. But of course, story and art is by Gege Akutami, and yeah, it's an awesome story. I guess basically, uh, it's kind of a side story in a sense, but it's in the same universe, real time of what's happening. It's more like a side mission experience that was mentioned in a way in the Jujutsu Kaisen series for the anime, where like Goro, uh, yeah, Satoru Gojo, he
Okay.
ends up like going on like his many missions where he disappears and he's not there and then comes back at the last minute to save the day in a sense. So, this story basically is one of those missions that he goes away on. And the characters that we have for this is Yuta Okotsu, who is a high schooler who gets bullied and beaten up. And in the way that he gets beaten up is it's kind of sad. Like you have these bullies that are all telling him, "Oh, come on, let me beat you up." Like they're just asking him. They're like, "Please," and it's like, "Come on, you know how I feel if you don't let me do it, or if you do let me do it." And then he keeps resisting, and these bullies keep getting more and more of a rise out of it. It's interesting, but he is a cursed user, I guess you can say, or not necessarily, a user because he doesn't know about it yet. He's still a high schooler out in public in the real world. And so these bullies, they pick on him, and the cursed spirit that's with him ends up killing them. Like, basically, like, just piles them up in small little compact rectangle shapes and stuffs them in a locker. And
Okay.
so that's how the story kind of kicks off. It's really interesting how that happens because you're like, whoa, what is going on? And so this curse that is with him is called Rika, and it's basically a friend of his that he knew when he was growing up. And the backstory behind that is it's intense. It's rather interesting, sad too at some point, but oh sorry, like you see Yuji Todoroki. It's the main character.
Okay.
He or Itadori. I'm sorry, Yuji Itadori. So like the main character, Gojo Sensei finds him, and basically brings him onto the Jujutsu Kaisen High School so he can be trained properly, control his cursed spirit, and in the same way, he ends up in the room with all the talisman papers on the wall to suppress the curse, while Gojo ends up, investigating him and talking to him about, well, his powers, what he feels like, and it has the same rather same setup as Itadori. So
Okay.
it's really nice. Kind of it gives you that really good introduction into the show and to the storyline involving the characters that we see. There are we have repeating characters that are in there. We have we have Panda or Panda. He's
Honda.
definitely yeah, he's definitely in here. He's a bit of a mentor and helps out everybody. We also have who's I forget his name. I forgot. Let me look it up so I can forget his name. But we also have Maki,
Okay.
with the glasses and long hair, a girl that is more human than the rest in the at Jujutsu High. So they basically are there together. Ah, gosh, I really want to get this guy's name right, so I'm trying to look for it. Oh man. Okay, well I can't figure out his name at the moment, but he's the one. Inumaki. There we go.
Okay.
He's the one character that doesn't necessarily speak because his curse is speech. So basically,
Yes.
what he says, the curse does its bidding in that sense. So like he'll be like, get crushed, and basically when he says it to someone, they literally get crushed. And
Yes.
so you have them, Maki, Panda, and Inumaki, who are guiding and mentoring Yuta, and his spirit is of course following. You go through a couple of scenes where they come across some spirits that are pretty powerful, and they end up realizing that Yuta's spirit Rika is a lot more powerful than they anticipated, and it's because he's a special grade curse user, much like
Ah.
much like Itadori. So
Yes.
they're on
Yes.
that same level. And when they figured this out, they're like, "Oh, come on, you gotta, try and help out a little more, I guess I can say." But Yuta's done. He doesn't want to like bring out Rika at all because he knows the full potential of what she can do, at least from what he's seen, and always kind of resists. But it gets to that point where everyone's lives are on the line, and then finally he's like, okay, he kind of jumps in, but with passion, with more, like these people I know and they're my friends, and I wanna help them, and Rika ends up helping them. It's not like an uncontrolled special grade spirit that we
Right.
would assume based on like how he's feared, or how he fears the spirit in a way because he knows how powerful she is. And then we get a nice introduction into this. I have to say, if I had read this first before I saw the last part of the season for Jujutsu Kaisen, it would definitely have been awesome. Maybe more meaningful for me. But you get to see Suguro Geto, who is the curse user. He's a special grade curse user, much like Gojo, and he is the one that has the curse manipulation technique, where he can pretty much hold hundreds of curses, especially special grade curses, and use them against their will, and for his bidding. And he shows up in the picture, and that's basically kind of like your first introduction of Geto. And
Okay.
it's nice, but then spoiler again, in the last part of Jujutsu Kaisen, he shows up. And this is kind of, I think, the way it plays out is almost as if it was kind of like right after the mission that Gojo went on, which this Jujutsu Kaisen Zero story takes place, and then it
Okay.
jumps back into the anime series, and it kind of takes it leaves off from there, and it continues with the anime series, a part of it. But it's amazing. You get to know about this kid Yuta and his cursed spirit. Ultimately, he comes to terms with everything and ends up realizing, what he needs to do to make things right, I guess, with this spirit Rika, and he at the end, I guess you can say, is more at peace, becomes a lot better as a person, realizes, what he has and what he could have done, and he just ends up being so much more happier at the end because he's got a dark personality in the beginning, and then little by little he starts to open up, becomes a better person, and yeah. But I'm not gonna give away what the cursed spirit Rika and Yuta's story is about because that is solid. It's really good.
Okay.
So that's something that I want to tell our listeners. If you
Well,
really want to
the
know about
whole
this, let's do it.
yeah, the whole story surprised me. It's not necessarily a genre that I read that much
Mhm.
of or watch that much of, but you know, I put it off and then I watched like 3 or 4 episodes on a day off, and I
Mhm.
was like, wow, this is really good. Not only is the story interesting, but the action and the universe that they've created is pretty different than
Mhm.
how we typically think of things like that. So yeah, I definitely be interested in that, and I think I'm always up for a prequel in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
it's pretty good. It's so weird though, because it's like when you read it and based off the story that you know about with the series, the anime series, like it doesn't even seem so much as a prequel, but like yeah, more like a side story. Like it was just
okay,
it's like a filler, I guess you can
yeah,
say.
not
And
not not as much like I mean, because I'm a dork. My my favorite season of Fairy Tale was Fairy Tale Zero. I thought
oh,
that was the most interesting version of Fairy Tale that there was to me. I don't
yes.
know why. I really liked that one more than I liked, the regular cast.
Oh, actually,
So,
I no, I like that a lot because it definitely tells you the origin story of how the fairy tale uh, guild basically came about. You had the
and
four founders that were there, and why it was the way it was, yeah,
why it's called
and why
Fairy
it's called fairy
Tale
tale, yeah.
Tail, as in not Tail, as in Tail, and not Tale. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I I, I really liked that season the absolute
Yes.
the best out of all of them.
So
So,
this
is
is,
this like a one shot though?
you know what? Yeah, actually, I think this is the way it plays out and how it ends. It does seem very much like it's just a one-shot side story that they wanted to give fans a little taste of to, I guess, more to, I guess, understand, special grade curse users, and if there was ever a chance that one was to overcome such a uh, like situations that involve being a special curse user, because it's not like Itadori where he just eats a finger and miraculously ended up being one of the most like prominent dangerous curses
Yes.
around.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
kid, unwillingly, like, or well, in a sense, yeah, unwillingly and unknowingly came to him, but then he realized, what had happened at first and why this curse, ended up being attached to him, and that part of the story is where it's like the meat of it, I guess,
Okay.
and and the point of Jujutsu Kaisen Zero. But man, it's really good. Um, but I mean, even on the manga, like looking back at it right now, I'm looking at the manga book right now. It does say that it is a prequel, but when you actually read it, it doesn't
It's a
feel like it
prequel.
at all. Yeah.
It's a prequel like a week before.
Like yeah, like a week before, or the story comes about where they barely get a hold or find out about Itadori, and this like just happened, and then the anime series with Itadori like happens immediately right after. So yeah, it's really interesting. I do like it a
Cool.
lot.
Cool. I'll have to download that one and put it on the e-reader for myself and
Yes.
snuggle up with some curses at night. So,
Right? Make sure you have
yeah.
your talismans up and around
Yes.
you to
Use,
protect you.
use one as a bookmark. There you go. It
There
just
you
keeps
go.
the
Yeah.
evil from getting out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's bring up. the Honey-chan pick, though this story came out actually a couple years ago, I actually found out from my sister, who is a history teacher, who is using it to teach a section of history in her class.
Oh, that's
It's
always good. Always good
it's
to use manga to teach history.
yes, it is. Especially since it's an autobiography. It's called "They Called Us Enemy." It's by
Oh,
George Takei. Uh, George
nice.
George Takei, as some of you may know, was the original Sulu from Star Trek. He's been an activist for years, especially when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to remembering things like the Japanese internment. And for those of you who do not know what that is, in 1942, at the order of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, every person of Japanese descent on the West Coast was rounded up and shipped to one of 10 relocation centers,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of thousands of miles, hundreds or thousands of miles from home, where they would be held for years under armed guards. Takei was one of those Japanese persons as a child that was sent to one of these internment camps. So think about living in a small town with large dormitories, communal cooking, and barbed wire surrounding it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you were an American citizen, and it was your own government that
Didn't
put you
trust you. Yeah.
and
It's,
trust you and put you there. So
mm-hmm.
he's been been one of the, I guess, best advocates at making sure people remember that this happened, because it is one of those things a lot of people quickly forgot about, because even though many of these individuals who were put in the camps, their lives were destroyed, their homes were ransacked or fell apart, or
Mm-hmm.
their jobs were gone when they were finally released, they put their noses back to the grindstone and remade their lives
Mm-hmm.
and moved on. And maybe that's just something out of that generation in general, because you could say that for the soldiers who came home. They didn't, they said, okay, you threw us a parade. Now I'm going to go work. So it's a very interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Harmony Becker is the illustrator. And it raises some amazing questions, like, what does it mean to be an American? Who
Mm-hmm.
decides who is an American? And what kind of resilience it takes to not only live through that, but bounce back from it. And
Yeah.
this is uh, the art is um, the art is simple. It's not overly embellished. But it is um, solidly. Uh, I don't know. The lines are simple, but everything they depict is important. From the
Uh,
placement of the blankets that are dividing the sections of these. Basically, you
yeah.
shared a cabin with another family,
Yeah.
and you would separate it with like blankets, and there was no no roof. Well, no, not no roof. There wasn't anything that went all the way to the roof. So
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
the your neighbors had, a noisy child, it was your noisy child too.
Yep.
Because so it was
That
it,
yeah, that was just something when I learned a little bit about that in history class too, back in school. Uh, I guess it didn't.
I recommend. I mean, I, I would recommend any teacher putting this in their classroom, because uh, it's a compelling story, and I think it puts history in an accessible
Mm-hmm.
medium.
Yeah, it
Uh,
definitely sounds like it does. Very powerful storytelling in something that's in a modern way, in a modern style of telling it.
yeah, and I really think that I always have to, I am a very proud big brother, because I have a sister who loves incorporating anime into her classroom.
Oh,
Whenever
awesome.
she can, she
God
incorporates
bless her.
it. And when she came across this, she said, "This is the perfect kind of story that to get her kids to understand what happened." And yeah, it was legalized racism.
Yes, that's exactly a point that I was gonna make is like this is like the beginning of legalized racism in a sense where you had the government making a decision on this to put all of these people in this one race
Yeah,
in camps just because they didn't trust them because we were at war with Japan or because they started it in a sense.
yeah.
There was already a war going on in Europe at the time, and then this happened. So like, yeah, you can totally see like they just the government freaked out. They didn't plan properly. They just like it was the judgment was just based on fear.
A- And they could have been here for generations. You could have been a fourth generation
Yeah,
Japanese
exactly.
American, and just because you were Japanese American, you were ordered
Mm-hmm.
to leave, and you were allowed one suitcase.
Just
If
one
you were lucky,
suitcase.
you had a neighbor who would watch your house and make sure that everything you worked for your entire life wasn't destroyed.
Yeah.
But you were allowed one suitcase.
Yeah, no, that's horrible. I can only imagine how it would have felt, back then for Japanese American soldiers that left either to Europe or to Japan to go fight in the war, and
Well,
then
they
hearing
did. They
about
didn't.
this.
They didn't let them go to fight in the Pacific.
Not to the
The Japan,
Pacific? Okay.
the Japanese American soldiers were only allowed to fight in the European theater.
Okay, so
They weren't allowed.
that I didn't know about that little piece of
Yeah,
information. But
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. It's a horrifying and ugly part of American history.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Takei has done a lot of work at helping us remember these parts
Mm-hmm.
so we don't relive them again.
Yeah,
And I
don't
think
relive, repeat
yeah,
everything.
and I think this manga that was created, I'm not sure whether they technically call it a manga because it was made in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
but um, this it's not made in color, so I'm going with manga because it's not a graphic novel. Uh, so I really think this is something that everyone should take a moment to read as their history lesson, if not,
Mm-hmm.
for the day, for the year, to understand. If you love Japanese manga, anime, and culture, it's important to also understand part of the Japanese experience in the United States. And this is a huge, huge part of it.
Yes. Yes, it is. I mean, George Takei, he even had, we were talking about it earlier, he even has like a play. I think it's already over, but he had a play that was going on that was telling a story about this situation, and I believe like it was following him when he was like 5 years old, and then he's playing his parent, his father, in this whole situation that they were going through, and it is just moving from what I'm hearing. I hadn't seen it because obviously it's play, physically have to be there, but I think there's like a video that might be going on about it. But I definitely I myself, because I love the Japanese culture, I love everything that it brings about, and this is definitely something that I'm gonna be checking out for sure.
And as your education friend, yes, please do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Anything else before we get going?
No, no, I don't think there is anything else until next time when we talk about our next manga. Of course, with Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, they did announce a movie that is going to be coming out. So that
Oh,
is
that's
also
great.
something if people don't want to read the manga, just wait until the movie comes out, and then you can definitely get your fix there.
Hey, and I have my ideas for the next two stories that I'm going to do already. They take place in, I'm trying to remember, they call it a new version of a seki, a new subgenre of a seki, where it's
New
I
Isekai.
am a new. It's where you're reborn or you reappear in your younger life to set right what disaster ever befalled you before.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Hmm.
recently read, have been reading two series based on that idea. So
Oh,
I'll be
that sounds
anxious to
interesting.
share that with you guys. And so for Fonzie and myself, that wraps up this episode of That Time I Tuned Into a Podcast just to listen to someone shill for a publisher. And we remind you this product has been made possible with the cooperation of Viz Media, Yen Press, Seven Seasons Entertainment, Kodansha, and most of all, Honey's Anime, the place for the anime enthusiast. Until next time, for Fonzie and myself, we thank you for listening and keep reading.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. You guys take care. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Honey's Anime on YouTube.